after we've had a chance to talk about it, we need to learn from it. And often, I go back to that linear process of the writing process. After you edit, you publish. I don't know about you, but everything I've written, thank God it's not being published. It shouldn't be published. Not everything that's written needs to be published. But as youngsters, they need to learn from it. So how are you going to learn from it? When we give feedback to kids, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that goal? Perhaps you need to rewrite a part of it. Perhaps you need to revise a part of it. Perhaps you can insert something or delete something or change something or alter a paragraph or explain something more. Perhaps you're just changing a part of it so your story or your piece of writing works better. Perhaps you don't need to work on this piece anymore because you've set a goal and you're going to use that goal on your next piece of writing. You don't need to keep rewriting the same thing over and over again. If you've written it, you've learned from it, you've set a goal, let's move on. Let's write something else, but let's keep that goal in mind. The final part is assessment and reflection. If your kids are on board with you from the very beginning and they know what you're looking for in a piece of writing, then it becomes very easy when you get to the end of that task to say, how'd you do? How close are you to our target? And I use, when I create the success criteria with my kids, we just drop that into a rubric. All of a sudden, those targets become our level 3. And we use modifiers. So how did you go beyond that to become a level 4? How are you just a little short of that to be a level 3, a level 2? And how are you really going to keep that as a working goal for you and you're a level 1? So it becomes very easy. If you start creating the assessment tools with your kids, they know exactly where they're going, how they're going to get there, and what it looks like. There are 4 influences that I think about when I think about writers. And they all start with A. And I have a few stories to go with them. First one is accessibility. And as a published author, it may seem a very strange confession to say to you, but I am a reluctant writer. I actually hate writing. Depends how you define writing. If the definition of writing for you is putting pen to paper, then oh yeah, I hate writing. I don't like the way a pen feels in my hand. I don't like the way my writing comes out on a page. I don't like having to organize everything that way. I don't like the way it feels. I don't like that. However, if you define writing as capturing your ideas so that other people can read them and share them with an audience, yeah, I'm a good writer. I love to write. I write with my fingers. I'm a technology person. I want to write with a laptop in front of me. I think better that way. Words come out of my fingers that I wouldn't even think would come out of my mouth. And I don't know where they come from. Sometimes I'll write and I'll come back the next day and be like, wow, where'd that come from? So I'm a writer, but I have different accessibility. And we need to notice that with our kids. We need to provide them with different opportunities so they can have accessibility to writing. They all have an author in them. We need to differentiate their learning opportunities so they can tell their story. Second one is authenticity. I'm going to take you back a few years to when I was in grade 11 math. Grade 11 math was very difficult for me. I had a teacher who believed in chalk and talk, and there I was sitting in grade 11 math, and we were learning about drawing three-dimensional vectors in two-dimensional space, and I saw a lot of his back that year. Sitting at the back of the classroom, he was drawing an x-axis, a y-axis, and a z-axis, although I'm not quite sure where a z-axis even goes as of this day. But there I was sitting in the back of the classroom, and all of us half asleep. Sir, when are we ever going to need to know this in real life? Well, you would have thought that was the most awful question in the world, because he turned around, dropped his chalk, and said, "It's going to be on the final exam, so I suggest you pay attention." That wasn't enough for me. I didn't do very well in the final exam because it had no purpose to me. I will tell you where it had purpose. A few years ago, the year 2000, I was given the opportunity to fly in the cockpit of an airplane. There I was, sitting in my 5-point harness, and I looked around. On those blue screens, what did I see? Two-dimensional vectors in three-dimensional space. Do you think it's important to know those trajectories and where they may possibly intersect? Wow, I wish you told me that in grade 11 math. That would have been much more important to me. I sure hope the pilots who were flying my plane paid attention in grade 11 math, because I sure didn't. When our kids are writing, they need to know what they're writing for. Why are they writing? What's the purpose of their writing? It needs to be authentic writing tasks. They're writing for a purpose. They're writing for a reason. Why are we doing this? Next time your kids ask you, why are we doing this? When are we ever going to need this in real life? I hope you have an answer. The third one is audience. I have a few audience stories I'm going to tell you. First one is where audience really affects the reader. The second one is audience really affects the writer. Just recently, my father was in England. He got stuck there with the volcanic ash. He's back now. But I went to his house to bring in his mail. And one of the letters in his mailbox was addressed to my mom. And here's a little bit of background that you need to understand this story. My mom recently passed away in December. So the letter was addressed to my mother. And it was from one of our local hospitals. And God bless them, they do wonderful work. But she was under their care at the time when she passed away. So not only was the letter addressed to her, but stamped boldly across the front of the envelope was the proclamation, "I'm alive because of this hospital." I wish that was a joke, but it's not. That letter that was intended to bring celebration and joy was met with anger and hostility and resentment. They didn't know their audience. They didn't know who they were sending that letter to. Has a huge impact on the reader as well as the writer. Here's an example of audience, how it helps your writer. So there I was in my grade 6 class, swearing that I would never be like my grade 11 math teacher. And there I was teaching my students how to calculate surface area. What was I drawing? I was drawing three-dimensional shapes in two-dimensional space. There I was. Okay, you have all the 6 faces. We have to calculate the area of all the 6 faces and add them together. Somebody in back of my class, when are we ever going to use this in real life? I don't know. Why don't you guys go to your backpacks and get your drinking boxes. Everyone has a drinking box. So they all went and they got all these different drinking boxes. They're all different shapes, all different sizes. So we set about calculating the surface area of all their drinking boxes. We discovered they were all different. Then we started looking at the volume that those drinking boxes contained. Hey, I wonder if there's a way to contain the same amount of volume with less surface area. Do you know there is? If you use a cube, it minimizes the surface area of a box. Well, my kids figured this out in grade 6. So what did we do with that information? We wrote letters to all those drinking box companies, telling them why they were wrong and why they should use our dimensions, why it was better for the environment, better for their economy, better for their products. All these reasons, we sent all of our math with them. And you know what? We got responses from 3 of those drinking box companies. My kids not only had a purpose for their math, but they had a purpose for their writing. They knew who they were writing to, they knew their audience, they knew what they were writing, and it was authentic for them. One of my parents even started a blog about it. The final part I'm going to tell you about is assessment. And as I think about assessment-based writing process, it makes me think of one of my recent trips to a shopping mall. Yeah, you can see how assessment is like shopping, right? So there I was. I'm a busy lady. I walked in and I'm looking for something very specific, and it's a mall that's unfamiliar to me. So as I burst into the mall, I find one of these handy-dandy mall maps. So I look on the map and I find the store that I'm looking for. The next thing I'm going to look for is one of those "You Are Here" stickers, because those are really handy. So I find the "You Are Here" sticker and I find the store that I need to go to. Then I start looking at, okay, where do I need to go? What do I need to do to get from here to here? I need to go down the escalator, past the fountain, through the food court. Got it. Now I need to know, what am I looking for when I get there? I'm going to look for a Sears and a Toys R Us. Those are the things I'm going to look for. How is assessment like a shopping mall? Our kids need to know where they are. They need to know where they're going. They need to do what they need to do to get there. And they need to know what it's going to look like when they get there. With an assessment-based writing process, you can give your kids all those tools, and they can meet with success. So that is the end, or the right beginning. So thank you.